firstly, I think we need to get clear for people who may not know the distinction, Deputy Speaker, between what is a plantation and what is hardwood selective harvesting. So if people, many people would have driven through the most common of pine plantations. You drive past them, Deputy Speaker, they're planted, they're not biodiverse, they're literally planted for the timber that they produce. They grow for the next 20, 30 years, however long that takes, and then they are just harvested, and you'll drive past them and they're floored, Deputy Speaker. You'll see acres, tens, hundreds of acres of where that plantation has been cleared. And that's the difference between what you call plantations and then what we're talking about here is hardwood harvesting, Deputy Speaker. And what that is, they're going into more diverse areas and more biodiversity areas. And this is done in Australia. We, the forestry industry, with departments, have done this exceptionally well. World-leading environmental best standard. So a logger just can't go in and randomly start cutting down hardwood. These trees are identified, they're selected in advance, and it's done in a very scientific, very environmental, best science way. And it's been going on for a long time. The foresters themselves, Deputy Speaker, believe me, know that they need this industry to be sustainable. And the type of timber that they get from this is very different from plantations. So everything the previous speaker said about sustainability, about enhancing that the industry is true, but what the state governments have done is exactly the opposite of that. Now, there's the other perverse effects of this, Deputy Speaker, because what the state governments are doing is locking it up. So they're saying to loggers and harvesters, you can't go into these areas and you can't selectively harvest hardwood timber. Now, okay, so what does that mean? So that means they're not going in there and doing this. So what is results of that, Deputy Speaker, is it's not kept. So I've got many areas in my regions, and I invite anyone opposite who speaks against this private member's motion to come, and I'll show you exact examples in my patch, Deputy Speaker. So what happens is it's not kept. So what happens is straight away weeds start to grow. We have a weed in our area called lantana. Takes over. So what happens, and there's actually scientific proof of this, Deputy Speaker, is what happens to the koalas? They leave the national parks because they can't get around anymore because it's not kept. So they can't. When they come down a tree, they can't go around the ground and come up another tree. So they actually leave the area, and the numbers of koalas in that area, and I'll show a report I saw just last week from the New South Wales government, which supported that. So the actual desire of what they're trying to achieve is actually perverse of what they're actually getting. The other thing that harvesters do when they go in, they maintain fire trails, and they maintain a system that when there are fires, it's easy to manage and to do that. And of course, now what happens within national parks when they're doing in New South Wales is those fire trails aren't kept up. Those companies would often too donate and give their equipment when there's a fire on to help fight fires and to go in and do management of that. And so that all disappears. So you can't get access to these places when you're trying to do fire breaks or you're trying to contain a fire outbreak. You can't get access to them. And of course, what you've also done is, the Indigenous, our Indigenous brothers and sisters were mentioned earlier. The things that our Indigenous brothers and sisters would do all the time is do what we call cultural burns. Captain Cook, as he was sailing up the coast, Deputy Speaker, all he was talking about was the fires he saw. And they were doing that as a land management process, which we do. When you lock up a national park, you pervert that. Because what you do, you can't do that. You can't do the fire breaks that you used to do. And of course, there's more fuel, and these things become a huge tinderbox as well, Deputy Speaker. The other thing, OK, you want to be righteous and you still think that's a good idea, Deputy Speaker, we still need the hardwood. Our demand, we want to build more houses, we want more furniture, you want to build some bridges, you want to do that carbon-friendly. Guess what the most carbon-friendly way to do that is? Not concrete, not steel, it's actually timber. So, which sequesters carbon, as we know, Deputy Speaker. So what are we going to be doing now as Australia? What are the states who pre-led this and banned hardwood timber harvesting in their states have had to go to other states to get it? Now there'll be less to do. So you know where we'll go now? Overseas. So we are now going to be importing hardwood timber into this country from countries who don't do it in a sustainable environmental way. We do this. I commend the member for bringing on this motion.